Manchester United transfer update. Sesko close to signing while BALEBA move looks unlikely. Welcome back to United News, the most trusted source for everything Manchester United. While other sources give you rumors and guesswork, we bring you the facts that matter. Today we have some massive updates on two potential signings that could shape Manchester United's future. Whether you are a season ticket holder or someone who watches every game from your sofa, this is the news you have been waiting for. The transfer window that could change everything. Have you been wondering what Manchester United are actually doing in this transfer window? Are they really serious about getting back to the top of English football? The answers might surprise you, and they definitely should excite you. Right now, Manchester United are working on two deals that show exactly what their plans are for the future. One is very close to happening and could be announced any day. The other seems much harder to complete but would solve a major problem the team has had for years. Benjamin Sesko, the tall striker from Slovenia, is almost ready to become a Manchester United player. At the same time, the club has shown interest in Carlos BALEBA, a young midfielder from Brighton who many experts think could become one of the best in his position. But which deal will actually happen? What does each signing mean for the team? And why are Manchester United choosing these particular players over all the other options available? Benjamin Sesko, so close you can almost taste it. Let us start with the big news that has every Manchester United fan checking their phones every few minutes. Benjamin Sesko is very close to joining the club, and it could happen as early as today. The latest reports from transfer expert Fabrizio Romano tell us that Sesko has already agreed to join Manchester United. He has said yes to the contract terms. He has chosen Manchester United over Newcastle United, even though Newcastle offered more money to his current club RB Leipzig. So what is taking so long? Why has the deal not been announced yet? The answer is simple but important. Manchester United and RB Leipzig are still working out the final details of how much money will be paid and when. These talks are happening right now, and both clubs want to get everything sorted out as quickly as possible. Romano says there are two main issues left to solve. The first is the exact amount of money Manchester United will pay up front. The second is how much they will pay in add-ons if certain things happen, like Sesko scoring a certain number of goals or the team winning trophies. These might sound like small details, but they matter a lot to both clubs. RB Leipzig want to get as much money as possible because they know they are selling a player who could become a star. Manchester United want to structure the deal in a way that protects them if things do not work out as planned. Why Sesko chose Manchester United over Newcastle? This is one of the most interesting parts of the whole story. Newcastle United actually offered more money to RB Leipzig than Manchester United did. In most transfer deals, the club that pays the most money gets the player. So why did Sesko choose Manchester United instead? The answer shows us something important about what players really want when they decide where to play football. Money is important, but it is not everything. Sesko looked at both offers and decided that Manchester United gave him the best chance to achieve his dreams in football. What are those dreams? Like most young players, Sesko probably wants to win the biggest trophies in football. He wants to play in the Champions League regularly. He wants to become a star that people around the world recognize and respect. Manchester United have a much better history of achieving these things than Newcastle. United have won the Premier League many times. They have won the Champions League. They have produced some of the greatest players in football history. Newcastle are building something interesting, and they have lots of money to spend. But they have not won a major trophy in decades. They are still trying to establish themselves as a top team in English football. For a 22-year-old player, choosing Manchester United makes perfect sense. Even if Newcastle offered him more money, the opportunities at Old Trafford are much bigger and more exciting. What Sesko brings to Manchester United. So what exactly are Manchester United getting if they complete this signing? Why are they willing to spend around £70 million on a player who has never played in the Premier League? Benjamin Sesko is not your typical striker. At 6 feet 5 inches tall, he is much bigger than most players in his position. This gives him a huge advantage when the ball is crossed into the penalty area. He can win headers that other strikers simply cannot reach. But being tall is not his only strength. Sesko is surprisingly quick for someone his size. He can run behind defenders and create chances for himself. Many defenders expect tall strikers to be slow, so they are often caught off guard by his pace. His technical skills are also very good. He can control difficult passes, he can dribble past defenders when needed, and he can finish chances with both feet. His left foot is stronger, but he has scored goals with his right foot too. Perhaps most importantly, Sesko has the right attitude for a Manchester United player. Reports from Germany say he is always the first player to arrive for training and one of the last to leave. He listens to his coaches and tries to improve every aspect of his game. In the modern game, strikers need to do much more than just score goals. They need to help the team when they do not have the ball. They need to create space for other players. They need to be leaders on the pitch. Sesko can do all of these things. The numbers behind the Sesko deal. Let us talk about the money involved in this transfer. Manchester United are reportedly willing to pay around 80 million euros, which works out to about 70 million pounds. This would make Sesko one of the most expensive signings in the club's history. Is this a lot of money for a 22-year-old striker? Yes, absolutely. But this is the reality of modern football. Good young players cost enormous amounts of money, especially when multiple clubs want to sign them. The key thing to remember is that Manchester United are not just buying Sesko for next season. They are buying him for the next 8 to 10 years, maybe even longer. If he becomes the star they think he can be, this transfer could end up looking like a bargain. Think about other expensive striker signings in recent years. Liverpool paid around £85 million for Darwin Núñez. Chelsea paid over £100 million for Enzo Fernandez. Arsenal paid £105 million for Declan Rice. These prices show us that Manchester United are not overpaying by today's standards. The deal also includes add-ons, which means Manchester United might pay extra money if certain things happen. These could include goals scored, trophies won, or appearances made. This type of structure protects the club if the player does not perform as expected. Training separately until the deal is done. One clear sign that the Sesko transfer is very close to completion is what is happening at RB Leipzig right now. The German club has confirmed that Sesko is training separately from his teammates until his future is sorted out. This is completely normal in transfer situations like this one. When a player is close to leaving, clubs often keep them away from the main group for several reasons. First, it prevents injuries that could ruin the transfer. If Sesko got hurt during a normal training session, Manchester United might change their mind about signing him. By training alone, he stays fit and ready to complete his move. Second, it avoids awkward situations with his current teammates. Everyone knows Sesko wants to leave, so it would be strange for him to train with players he might never play with again. Third, it allows him to focus completely on his move to Manchester United. He can think about what he needs to do to succeed at his new club instead of worrying about his current situation. The fact that Leipzig are comfortable with this arrangement shows they expect the transfer to happen very soon. They would not let their star striker train separately for weeks or months. Carlos BALEBA, the midfielder United want but cannot get. While the Sesko deal looks very likely to happen, the situation with Carlos BALEBA is completely different. Manchester United have made contact with Brighton about signing the 21-year-old midfielder, but this transfer looks much less likely to succeed. Who is Carlos BALEBA and why do Manchester United want him? The young player from Cameroon joined Brighton from French club Lille last year for around £25 million. In his first season in the Premier League, he showed exactly why Brighton were willing to pay so much money for him. BALEBA is what football people call a holding midfielder. This means he plays in front of the defense and helps protect the team when they do not have the ball. He tackles opponents, he wins back possession, and he starts attacks for his team. But BALEBA is not just a defensive player. He is very good at passing the ball and can create chances for the attacking players. He is strong in the air and difficult for opponents to push off the ball. At 21 years old, he still has lots of room to improve. Manchester United have been looking for a player like this for a long time. They have Casemiro, who is excellent but getting older. They need someone younger who can eventually take over his role in the team. Why Brighton do not want to sell BALEBA? So if BALEBA is so good and Manchester United need a player like him, why is this transfer not happening? The problem is that Brighton simply do not want to sell him. Brighton have become very smart about buying and selling players. They find talented young players from around the world, help them improve, and then sell them for big profits. But they only sell when they are ready, not when other clubs come asking. With BALEBA, Brighton feel they have found something special. He is young, he is improving rapidly, and he could become one of the best midfielders in the Premier League. Why would they sell him after just one season? Brighton also know that if they wait another year or two, BALEBA could be worth much more money. If he continues to improve and helps Brighton have a good season, his value could double or even triple. This puts Manchester United in a difficult position. They want the player, but they cannot force Brighton to sell. They can offer lots of money, but Brighton do not need to accept any offer if they do not want to. What Rio Ferdinand thinks about these transfers. Manchester United legend Rio Ferdinand has some interesting thoughts about these potential signings. The former defender believes that United should prioritize signing BALEBA over Sesko, which goes against what the club seems to be doing. Ferdinand makes a compelling argument for his position. He points out that BALEBA already has Premier League experience and has proven he can perform at the highest level in English football. Sesko, while talented, is still unproven in the Premier League and might need time to adapt. The former England international also believes that a good holding midfielder would have a bigger impact on the team than another striker. He thinks BALEBA could solve multiple problems for Manchester United by protecting the defense better and allowing other midfielders to focus more on attacking. Ferdinand said that if he had to choose between the two players, he would go for BALEBA every time. He believes the midfielder would have a huge impact on the squad and make the whole team better. This creates an interesting debate among Manchester United fans. Should the club listen to one of their greatest ever players? Or should they trust their current management team to make the right decisions? The financial reality of both deals. Let us talk about the money side of these potential transfers. Manchester United have already spent quite a bit this summer on players like Matheus Cunha and Bryan Mbeumo. Adding Sesko to that list would bring their spending close to £200 million. Can Manchester United afford to sign both Sesko and BALEBA? The reports suggest this would be very difficult, especially given the high prices both players would command. Brighton would probably want at least £60 to £70 million for BALEBA, maybe even more. Combined with the Sesko fee, this would mean spending around £140 million on just two players. That is an enormous amount of money, even for a club like Manchester United. The club also has to think about financial fair play rules, which limit how much teams can spend relative to their income. Spending too much money in one transfer window could cause problems in future windows. This is probably why the reports suggest Manchester United are focusing on completing the Sesko deal first, then seeing if they can find the money and the opportunity to sign BALEBA later. What this means for current players. If Manchester United do sign Sesko and possibly BALEBA, what does this mean for the players already at the club? This is an important question because it affects not just the new signings, but also the existing squad members. For the striker position, signing Sesko would create real competition for players like Rasmus Højlund. Both players are young and both want to be the main striker for the team. This competition could be good for the team, but it might not be good for both players individually. If BALEBA were to join, it would affect the midfield significantly. Players like Casemiro, Kobbie Mainoo, and others would have to fight harder for their places in the team. Again, this competition could improve the overall level of the squad. Some fans worry about disrupting the team chemistry by bringing in new players. Others argue that Manchester United need more quality and depth if they want to compete for major trophies. The truth is probably somewhere in between. New signings can improve a team, but only if they fit well with the existing players and the manager's tactical plans. How these signings fit the manager's vision. Manchester United's current manager clearly has a specific idea about how he wants his team to play. The players he wants to sign give us clues about his tactical approach and long-term plans. Signing a tall, strong striker like Sesko suggests the manager wants to have different options in attack. The team can play long balls to Sesko, they can cross the ball more often, and they can use his physical presence to cause problems for opposing defenses. Interest in a holding midfielder like BALEBA shows the manager understands the importance of controlling the middle of the pitch. Having a strong defensive midfielder allows the more creative players to focus on attacking without worrying too much about defensive duties. Both signings would give Manchester United more tactical flexibility. They could play different styles of football depending on the opponent and the situation in the game. The competition from other clubs. Manchester United are not the only club interested in these players. We have already talked about Newcastle's interest in Sesko, but there are other clubs watching both players closely. For Sesko, clubs like Arsenal, Chelsea, and even some teams from other European leagues have been mentioned as potential suitors. The fact that he chose Manchester United over these alternatives shows the club's pulling power is still strong. BALEBA is also attracting interest from other Premier League clubs and teams from around Europe. His performances for Brighton have not gone unnoticed, and other clubs are probably planning their own moves for him. This competition makes both transfers more difficult and more expensive for Manchester United. When multiple clubs want the same player, prices go up and deals become more complicated. The timeline for both deals. When might we see these transfers completed? The timelines for the two deals are very different. For Sesko, everything points to a completion very soon, possibly within days. The personal terms are agreed, the clubs are in final negotiations, and the player is ready to travel for his medical examination. Unless something unexpected happens, this deal should be announced very quickly. For BALEBA, the timeline is much less clear. Brighton do not want to sell, which means this transfer could drag on for weeks or months. It might not even happen at all in this transfer window. Manchester United might decide to wait until January or next summer to make another attempt for BALEBA. By then, Brighton's position might have changed, or the player himself might push harder for a move. What success looks like for each player. If these transfers do happen, how will we know if they have been successful? What should Manchester United fans expect from their potential new signings? For Sesko, success in his first season would probably mean scoring 15 to 20 goals in all competitions. More importantly, he needs to show he can adapt to the physical demands of English football and fit into the team's style of play. Long-term success for Sesko would mean becoming one of the Premier League's top strikers. If he can consistently score 25 or more goals per season, he would be considered one of the elite players in his position. For BALEBA, if he were to join, success would be measured differently. As a holding midfielder, his job is more about preventing goals than scoring them. Success would mean improving the team's defensive stability and allowing other players to perform better. The ultimate measure of success for both players would be helping Manchester United win major trophies. Individual performances are important, but what really matters is whether the team improves and starts competing for the Premier League and Champions League again. The risk and reward calculations. Every big transfer involves risk, and these potential signings are no different. What could go wrong with each deal, and what are the potential rewards? For Sesko, the main risk is that he might struggle to adapt to English football. Many good players from other leagues have found the Premier League more difficult than they expected. If Sesko cannot handle the pace and physicality, Manchester United would have wasted a lot of money. There is also the risk of injury. Sesko is a big player who relies on his physical attributes. A serious injury could significantly affect his performance and value. But the potential rewards are huge. If Sesko becomes a star at Manchester United, he could lead the attack for many years and help the club win major trophies. He could also become much more valuable, making the transfer fee look like a bargain. For BALEBA, the risks are similar but perhaps smaller because he has already proven himself in the Premier League. The main risk is that he might not improve Manchester United's midfield as much as expected. The potential rewards for signing BALEBA include better defensive stability, more control in midfield, and the development of a player who could become one of the best in his position. How these transfers affect Manchester United's long-term plans. Looking beyond just next season, how do these potential signings fit into Manchester United's long-term strategy? What do they tell us about where the club wants to be in 5 years' time? Both Sesko and BALEBA are young players with their best years ahead of them. By signing players like this, Manchester United are showing they want to build for the future rather than just trying to fix immediate problems. This approach makes sense for several reasons. Young players can improve significantly over time, making them more valuable. They can also stay with the club for many years, providing stability and continuity. The club seems to be moving away from signing older, established players who might only have a few good seasons left. Instead, they are focusing on players who can grow with the team and become stars at Old Trafford. This strategy requires patience from fans and management. Young players do not always perform perfectly right away. They need time to develop and reach their full potential. The fan perspective on these potential signings. What do Manchester United fans think about these potential transfers? As always with big signings, opinions are mixed and passionate. Many fans are excited about the possibility of signing Sesko. They see him as the kind of striker the club has been missing for years. His physical attributes and potential for improvement have captured the imagination of supporters who dream of seeing him become an Old Trafford legend. However, some fans are worried about spending so much money on a player who is still unproven in the Premier League. They remember other expensive signings that did not work out as planned and wonder if the money could be better spent elsewhere. The BALEBA situation has created interesting debates among supporters. Some fans agree with Rio Ferdinand that a holding midfielder should be the priority. They believe the team's problems start in midfield and that fixing this area would have the biggest impact on results. Other fans trust the club's decision to prioritize a striker. They argue that scoring goals wins games and that having a reliable goalscorer is more important than any other position. What other clubs are doing. To understand these potential Manchester United signings better, it helps to look at what other big clubs are doing in the transfer market this summer. Manchester City have been relatively quiet, making only a few small signings. This is probably because they already have a very strong squad and do not need major changes. Arsenal have focused on adding depth to their squad rather than making headline signings. They seem confident that their current players can compete for major trophies. The Sesko deal looks very likely to happen and could be announced any day now. This would give Manchester United fans something to be genuinely excited about. A tall, strong, quick striker with huge potential could be exactly what the team needs to score more goals and win more games. The BALEBA situation is more complicated, but it shows that Manchester United understand all areas of their squad need attention. Even if they cannot sign him this summer, they know what type of player they need and will probably try again in the future. At Unite United News, we will continue to bring you all the latest updates on these transfers and everything else happening at Manchester United. We promise to give you the facts without the speculation, the truth without the hype. Keep checking back with us for the very latest news on both deals. The next few days could be very exciting for Manchester United fans, and we will be here to cover every development as it happens. This is exactly the kind of ambitious transfer activity that Manchester United fans have been waiting for. Whether it leads to success on the pitch remains to be seen, but at least the club is showing they are serious about returning to the top of English football. The Benjamin Sesko signing could be announced at any moment, and when it happens, you will read about it first right here at Unite United News, your most trusted source for everything Manchester United.